The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers Cable or Rogers TV.
I suspect the Christmas trees are all either ash or in the compost heap now.
Probably. And believe me, we're right back to business as usual with wall-to-wall meetings.
You know, it was funny. I was talking to one of your colleagues in Grey County Council, Sue Carleton, recently,
Oh, yeah.
and she was saying the exact same thing, that it's been a nice break, but now we're back to the grind. Now we're back to business.
It was a wonderful break, but it was fast. And, I don't think people have much of a grasp of just how much work is involved in this. If you were paid by the hour, we would be talking cents, not dollars.
Oh, yeah. That's very true.
That's not my concern. It's just to be able to do a good job with all there is. I easily have 1,000 pages of reading that I urgently need to get done.
Well, this is the thing that people don't realize, and this is something that our digital world has changed. In that, I've seen some of the agendas for One Sound City Council, and they can run 200-300 pages for a regular meeting. You just get a planning report that has to be dealt with, or a public meeting, and hundreds of pages.
Our meeting on Monday the 15th is 542 pages.
Yeah.
And there's if you don't read those documents and you don't have the background, you're not really able to vote intelligently. So it's critical that we do spend the time. But I also I like to think of myself as a full-time mayor, and one that is really busting to make things happen. So when we finish here, I'm on my way to the Owen Sound Airport, because I understand it's been sold. I've already had a meeting with the people who were buying it, and they'd like me to come and chat some more today. So, I only found out that this morning, but I will be on my way once we complete this video.
Well, that's very interesting, because I had not heard anything about the Owen Sound Airport. I knew it was on the market, but and I knew the Wyerton Airport is also on the market. But interesting that it actually has sold. And hey, that's something for our next show, to be absolutely sure.
Exactly.
It will be interesting to see how that develops, because that has been a conversation piece in the political life of this part of Grey County for decades.
Yeah. What is exciting to me is that the new proponent, is really an industrialist and looking to do something quite expansive. And to me, that's challenging, because we're in a rural area. The airport is in a rural area, and that means there are not the infrastructure that you need in order to get involved in industry. But these people seem to have some great ideas. And, I think part of my job is to, find out what those ideas are and be working with people to see if we can bring them to fruition.
Absolutely. It'll be interesting to see, because one of the things that I have been told is that indeed the airport property itself is relatively landlocked, and there isn't much room for expansion, even though the length of the runway couldn't be added to, is what I recall being told. So we'll see.
That airport is a great resource, and very, very, very important to the area. And we now know that it's not a role for municipalities of our size or even bigger, to get involved in. But I do believe that everything a council can do to promote this kind of an infrastructural resource is very important.
Well, we will not look for your private jet.
So what's on your mind these days, David?
All right, we'll segue into something else, Ross. Actually, well, let's go on to something that, speaking of New Year's, you have followed the tradition in many municipalities of having a New Year's levy. And it wasn't on New Year's, but it was just recently. And what was that all about? Tell us
I
about
think
that.
the levy, as you know, people say it goes back to the days of the fur trade, and I think in Canada it did. But I noticed that royalty, parliaments, provincial, federal, in all kinds of different countries do have a levy, and the idea is just an informal opportunity to get the new year off to an auspicious start. And we do it in two ways. We have free public skating and free hot chocolate at the arena, and I went to that for a couple of hours, and then hastened to Meaford Hall to greet people on an area in which I'm much more comfortable with a glass of red wine in my hand and chatting with, a great cross-section of people in our municipality. It was very well attended, which I appreciate so much. What is really important is that every member of council was there, and they all had great conversations with ratepayers. So, and we just about I want to say 6 weeks ago, I had an open town hall meeting. It also was held in the galleries at Meaford Hall, and it was a completely open discussion in which, and this is another first, not only did councillors present on our projects that we have, deemed the things that we want to accomplish over the next 4 years, but also staff members reported on some of these. And again, an opportunity for people to no motions, no, buy your leave, no, you're limited to 2 minutes, or you're limited to 5 minutes, or you're limited to 10 minutes. No, it's open conversation, and we need to do more of that, and we will. I just had an invitation from Bob Peel, our chamber president, to consider a mayor's breakfast or a mayor's luncheon. And I got back to him and said, well, I really like that idea. I want to do it because I think these opportunities are so valuable for communications, open communications and transparency. But why not have a panel? And you could have a panel with the all 7 members of council, or I said you could have the mayor and the deputy and the CAO. I think it's important to more and more draw staff into these meetings, because staff are the people who do the work, and staff are also the people who, at the end of the day, know how things have to be done in the municipal world. And so I think it's, more and more we should be engaging them with the public. And that doesn't mean that like even the mayor cannot walk into somebody's office and say, you have to do this or you should do that. I've heard in times past that people, work crews have been accosted by ratepayers saying, move that here, do this, do that, you know what I mean? And even councillors, do not have that prerequisite at all.
Very true. 25, 30, 40, 50 years ago, that may have been common or was more common. I recall stories of growing up in Quebec where come election time, paving machines appeared and people would have their roads paved.
Well, I believe there was a time here in good old Upper Canada when, the politicians appeared with an ample supply of hard liquor to, get people thinking their way.
Ross, Upper Canada, this is not Upper Canada. I can tell you now, in New Brunswick, not that long ago, a vote was worth a Mickey of rum.
Well,
try it.
Things are not like that. And I can tell you, even in the old days at county council, you see the horse and buggy days survived in both Grey and Bruce counties right up into the 60s. And because what the trend was, if you were coming from Southgate to Owen Sound in your horse and buggy, you weren't going to do that every day. And they had 5-day sessions of county council or something about that. And they would drive their buggies to Owen Sound, and they would stay at a hotel, and they would have their meetings at a hotel or some, certainly Hatton Hall was a favorite haunt of Grey County councillors. And, in that kind of an environment, it should be no surprise that sometimes there would be a card game going on in the boiler room late in the day. And I can remember as a cub reporter having gone down to the boiler room on more than one occasion to try and drum up a quorum for a vote.
Well,
you know what? I will also tell you that those county councillors back in those days were very dedicated. They truly were. I admired some of them mightily because they were great role models, and they worked very hard. And they were managing a farm in a much tougher time, and also giving of themselves to serve on county council and on their first tier administration.
Absolutely. We forget too that back in the day, the hotels not just had accommodations and meals and whatever went on down in the boiler room, but they also had livery stables.
Exactly.
And that's where those horses and buggies would have been. The horses would have been stabled, and the buggies would have been parked. So different time.
Can I digress for just a minute to tell you a little story that I just learned? This is Meaford's sesquicentennial. As a matter of fact, the first Meaford Council meeting as a corporation, a municipal corporation, was held on January the 15th in 1874, I believe. Does that sound like our sesquicentennial?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And we had at the levee, last Sunday, we had an enormous display put up by the Meaford Museum from their archives commemorating this anniversary, and it was really awesome. But I'm starting to hear stories now about the old days in Meaford, and I heard this story for the first time. There was a Mrs. Hill who lived on Marshall Street, right beside the railroad tracks. And I understand that when the last train left Meaford, it stopped, and the crew gave her the beacon light from the train in appreciation for the fact that for years they stopped the train at Marshall Street on the way into town. You're halfway through town when you get to Marshall Street, because she brought out cookies, fresh baked cookies for the crew, and did that a regular basis, and that's the way they celebrated her. And what a story, you know what I mean? And places like Meaford and everywhere really are blessed with all these amazing stories. It's finding them that's so hard, and then getting them out there. And that's our work in 2024 largely, is to get those stories out and celebrate them and have some fun. Because I think that all of us have a great sense of community and place living here in Meaford, as you do in Owen Sound and people do in Georgian Bluffs and wherever.
Well, one of the things speaking of the railroad, one of the things I have learned along the way, there was an author by the name of Ian Wilson who has done some excellent documentation of the railroads, of the various railways across southern Ontario, particularly the CN. And one of the things that I didn't realize until I saw the pictures is that the line into Meaford, from Barrie over to Meaford, which is through Collingwood and so on, was actually one of the first places where they ran what was called the Dayliner. And this predates those silver Bud cars that came into Owen Sound. This was 1930s. CN developed its own self-powered rail cars, and Meaford, the main route was between Meaford and Barrie, Meaford and Allendale. So
something I didn't know.
Yeah,
that's interesting. What I have learned is that Meaford had two railway stations. The first was built not far from where I live, on McKimmon Drive, just over. It's called Station Hill as you round the bend and go down into urban Meaford, and that is there was a big property there, and they had a very big, it was the Grand Trunk, they had a very big station. But when Meaford really started to take off, they decided it was better to have the station at the harbor, where it could service the lake traffic. And as a result, there was a second station, and that second station was truly an architectural gem. And the bad news is, as a high school student in the late 1950s, I remember walking by it as they demolished it, and as a callous youth thinking, well, that's progress, you know. The good news is that the plans are extant, and there's a drawing showing the plans of the building hanging right now in the galleries at Meaford Hall. If in a perfect world, we will rebuild that someday, because it could play so many valuable roles in the harbor in the future. Right now, you can't buy a cup of coffee, a Coke, or a beer at the harbor. You can't buy bait. You know, there's a lot of things you can't do because we just don't have the facilities. If we had that station back, there could be a restaurant, and how many of Ontario's railway stations were turned into first-class restaurants? But there's more good news. Right now, work is just going on feverishly at the old fire hall right next to Meaford Hall. That is being turned into an Italian restaurant, and it is going to be fabulous.
What's the name of it? Do you know?
I heard? I really can't say. I think they were thinking of naming it for the street number, but I think that I don't know. I'd call it the old fire hall if it was mine.
Well, sure, but I'm hearing there's a lot. We're starting to see a resurgence of eateries and restaurants.
Well, right now there are. I want to say. Between the corner of Nelson Street, like there's two on Nelson Street before you round the corner onto Sykes, and then there is the Dam Pub, there's Franny's, there's the kitchen, there's Sheardowns, there's the Leaky Canoe, there's the Red Door, and there is Tilly's. So,
well, I'd say you have become a gastronomic destination then.
Well, I think the reason is that there are such excellent shows at Meaford Hall and the Opera House that you can attend these for, I want to say, a quarter to a third of what you would pay in Toronto. And they're the same shows, excellent. And so you can have a complete evening out, dining in one of the restaurants, and then going across the road to the theater. Yeah. And you know, something a lot of people don't even really think about, but a lot of people spend their entire summer berthed in Meaford on the water, you know, and they do it in Thornbury and Collingwood and Owen Sound. You know, it's a lifestyle that if you're not part of it, you don't really realize it's going on. Those people walk uptown every night to the restaurant unless they're having a barbecue, you know, over the stern of the sailboat.
Sure. Well, from all that celebration, and I'm not going to use the word frivolity, but whatever. Let's move on to something a little more serious. That because the Meaford Council has established a new committee structure, which I think is rather interesting.
We haven't established it yet, and but we're very close, and it should be coming together very soon. But what we don't want to do is we don't want to bring forward something that we know is not wanted. So this is a case where we need a very, very close consultation between council and staff. And we're getting it. Staff is being so cooperative, and every member of council is contributing to their knowledge to it. And it's a sort of a story of different strokes for different folks. On the Heritage Committee, for example, they're very interested in their terms of reference, making clear how we handle heritage in and heritage districts in the province of Ontario, and how things work. And that committee wants to do a better job of informing the public, so that, if you can believe it, we had a recent case where there was a stop work order on a building because they were in the heritage district but didn't have a heritage permit, and B, they didn't even have a building permit, and as I say, people really don't know what they don't know, and I certainly don't know what I don't know. So I'm not being critical, but I'm just saying that's how you can get into difficulties. And so that committee, those people are very well versed on heritage issues, and they have a lot of really important knowledge about different building materials, and how to care for them and how to preserve them while there's a renovation going on, and all these kinds of things. So they want to use that expertise, and they want to ensure that our built heritage, it does not get lost in the shuffle of growth and development. So that's one thing. But then there are the other different committees. And the essential thing is that everybody on those committees wants to accomplish something. They don't want to just be, we shoot out ideas and then see if there's any takers on council or on staff. I think they want to actually do some work. And unfortunately, our terms of reference before, did not really provide that opportunity. So in each case, we're trying to make sure that what we come out with is actually something that people want to sign up for. Excuse me.
Sure.
Talking too much.
I noticed that in contrast to many of the municipalities across Grey County, you've established an accessibility advisory committee. Most of the municipalities have said, okay, that we'll let county take care of that. And even Owen Sound has just dissolved its accessibility advisory committee. So what's that? What was the thinking behind that?
Well, this committee has been in place for a long time, and there isn't any question that Meaford just believes that this is one of those issues where local knowledge is king, and it's important that people who actually experience disabilities of one kind or another can bring forward their ideas on how to improve accessibility. And that's the reason for the committee. And we consider it still extremely valuable and want to continue with it. And it is really the underlying reason why Meaford went on its own for a community safety and wellness committee.
Well-being. Community safety and well-being. Yeah.
Yes. It really, it was a lot of work. It was a certain amount of money, and it continues to be a certain amount of money. But we felt that the Grey Bruce area is a very, very big piece of real estate. And Meaford is a big enough piece of real estate that we wanted to get closer to the problems that exist in our community. And by having our own committee to look into these issues and to deal with them made a lot of sense. And as I say, so far, I don't hear anybody backing away from that.
Mm-hmm. So when will this new committee structure come into place?
Well, I think it's only a matter of a couple of weeks, maybe, because we're right down to the short strokes. I know I am chair of the Heritage Committee, and I want to take a close read on some of the things that have been advanced by members of the committee, and compare it to what staff is bringing forward. And I just told our interim CAO, please don't bring that one forward anyway until I've had a chance to evaluate what the recommendations are. Because I know what the frustrations that people serving on some of these committees have felt. And again, essentially, it is that they want to bring their expertise to bear in a way that produces results. I think the most important one, honestly, is economic development. And if people are not going to want to serve on an economic development committee, and 5 years later, there's been no economic development. That's not, what they signed up for. And so we've got to make sure that these committees really, and part of it has to do with, it's very easy, if you're not careful, to end up with a committee system where members of the committee who are volunteering their time, they're not getting any pay, they're volunteering their time, but they're just as liable and just as accountable as councillors are for their conduct and for a variety of things. And so I just don't see the necessity of that stringency for public committees. And I think that council has come to that conclusion and is trying to ensure that we come up with terms of reference that make it easy for people to want to serve on these committees.
Well, it should be interesting because one of the things is that every municipality has the freedom to establish its own committee structure and to meet the needs of the community to the best of their ability. So we'll see what happens. Mm-hmm. We'll see how this plays out. Who knows? I guess you'll know at the next election.
Yes. Hopefully there's 3 more years to try and accomplish something. But what does scare me is I just received a report this morning for a 27-page report for a meeting tomorrow afternoon at 3:00. And what it says in there, it's outlining the role of our internal committee working on the Ontario Pump Storage Project. And it's mapped out by our consultants, and they see it's only going as far as 2026, and as I say, it's 27 pages. So that's the kind of project that is so complex and so all embracing in terms of there are just so many angles, not just the environment, but there's social aspects. There are all kinds of ways of coming at this, and we have to be sure that we're ready to do that and that we have the capacity to do that. And this is all about those two things. But yeah, I can see, for example, where I will be enjoying, finally really enjoying retirement, and somebody else will be carrying the load on this. We're just shouldering it at this point to launch it, but there will be work for Meaford politicians for some years to come on that file.
Has there been any movement from IESO or DND on the project? It seems to have not. There's been very little.
That's right, and that has had a lot of people, sort of shifting on eggshells. But I believe that there is movement this week, and that there should be some public information within, I would say, the next week to 10 days about the project moving to its next stage. We'll have to see, but I'm pretty confident that that's what is coming down. One of the reasons why I've taken the unpopular stand that I have taken as mayor of Meaford is that all the evidence points to the need for this project, and all the evidence points to the likelihood of it proceeding. So if that's the case, it would be a dereliction of duty in my mind, to not be ready, to not be prepared, to not have the things in place that we will need. And so you'll see and hear a lot over the next few months about what Meaford is doing. And here's the thing. We've already used a lot of our staff's time in adjusting to the changes that this is bringing about right now. We should be reimbursed for that, and we're going to ask for that in the immediate future here, and I'm sure that we'll get some recompense for this. But it would not be appropriate in my mind to not be taking the steps to ensure that, in fact, if our staff is going to be, spending time focused on a private project, or at least a government project that is not our project, that we should be reimbursed for their time.
Well, Ross, at that point, we're going to take a quick break because, we've got more to talk about. I'm David Shearman. This is Politically Speaking. We'll be right back.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
You're watching Rogers TV.
I don't care what the law is. I will never be a slave. That word, I hate it. It rests on my tongue like rot.
Peter, how does it feel to get paid for your work?
There are rumors freedom's coming for us all.
Freedom, you know that's all I want.
Chloe, careful. Vrooman would rather sell you across the river to America than let you go free.
Then I'll run.
I've run before. Maybe this time for good.
No! Just get her into the boat. No!
Chloe? Chloe, no!
Word of Chloe Cooley's resistance led to Canada's first legislation limiting slavery. After 200 years, slavery was abolished in Canada in 1834.
With Rogers TV, you can cheer on the home team from the comfort of your living room. We'll head to the rink, the field, the court, or the pitch, so you don't have to. Tune in and cheer on your local amateur athletes on Rogers TV.
Hi, welcome back to Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. My guest is Ross Kentner, who is the mayor of Meaford. And we've been talking about all kinds of cool stuff like a levy, a party. We've been talking about structure. We've talked about TC Energy. But, Ross, this whole thing about the TC Energy pump storage is only one part of a much larger picture that the government is preparing. And I wanted, there's this new project just on the outside of Owen Sound, but it is in Meaford. It's on the south side of Superior Street, just on the border of the city, but it's in Meaford, called Orchard Storage, which is a 100 megawatt lithium-ion battery storage center, and they are building 4 of them across Grey County, I believe, the same company. And municipal response has been, how shall I say it, mixed. I know the West Grey has said, yes, we like the idea. Other municipalities have said, no, we're not keen on it. I know it's come up at Owen Sound Council, and I believe it also has come up at Grey County Council. But has Meaford taken a position on these battery storage projects?
Meaford did, and I heard some disturbing information about the potential problems with this technology at County Council. And so I'll just say what I said there is the reason that we endorsed it was simply to make it clear that a lot of people think that we've been bought off, or whatever you want to say, by TC Energy. Not true. We just believe that we need to be ready and to make the most, if this does go forward, that we make the most of that opportunity for Meaford. So when this came along, it was clear to me, and I believe that all of council voted to demonstrate that we are, open to all viable forms of energy storage. And we keep hearing, from opponents to pump storage that, battery is the way to go. Well, we got an earful at County Council about just how potentially dangerous these, this technology can be. A big surprise. So, and one of the reasons why Owen Sound is concerned, as you probably well know, is that if there were a fire, the first responder would be the Owen Sound Fire Department, I would think, because now it would probably, with the arrangement that we have, it would be the Inter-Township Fire Department. But there isn't any doubt if a really serious, long-standing and difficult to put out fire erupted, the Owen Sound Fire Department would be there to help. And so I think they're looking at it and saying, well, if we're going to be on the hook for protecting people against this, we need to know a lot more about it. And we weren't even consulted. Anyway, I think that at the end of the day, a lot of different forms of storing electricity are going to be important to the future course of providing energy in Ontario, and I think it's probably each of these will serve a role in it. But I think we need to know a lot more than we were originally told about this to be comfortable with it, and we probably will. I've no doubt be hearing more from the proponents to ensure that everybody is well informed on the pros and cons of this technology.
Well, to be sure, because the fire issue, which is what the big risk with these lithium-ion batteries is significant, but it also will probably require some kind of specialized technology or equipment for fire control. So we'll just have to wait and see, I guess. Yeah.
Can I tell you something more about the TCE project? Because you were asking me about it, and I failed to mention this, but I'm just going to let you know that on December the 13th, Deputy Mayor Keaveney and Interim CAO Matt Smith and I had a meeting with Grant Jensen and members of his team, and they are at the Ontario Regional Office of the Federal Impact Assessment Agency. And we were discussing how that body plans to hear from everyone with concerns about the project and how our municipality is going to be involved in decisions concerning any impacts, be they environmental, social, whatever. So that's an example of when I say we need to be ready, we need to be prepared for this, because it could very well happen. And it wouldn't matter what kind of song and dance we put up. I don't think there was a strong possibility that we could not work with them on this. And to me, this is the kind of thing that is going to put us in the driver's seat and make sure that we have some control over the impacts.
Well, let's move on to something a little more, I hate to say dry, because it probably isn't, because it involves money. I noticed in reading the minutes, I think it's the December council meeting, that there were some decisions made around financing for the Cook Street reconstruction project and the Nelson Street booster station. And you were saying both of those are finished, but now you got to pay for it. So how are you going to pay for those two projects?
Well, initially the plan was to do it through debt, and I should explain. Nobody likes debt, and there's lots of reasons, to avoid it. But there are also in the municipal field reasons, to embrace it as well, because we're always looking for grants to support infrastructure projects. And a municipality that has, tidy reserves and no debt, applying for grants may not fare as well as the municipality that has extended itself and is trying to keep up, and all municipalities are, with the infrastructure deficit. That's one of the reasons why we sanctioned, yes, we'll do it by debt. But then through some, I think, excellent detective work by our, I call him our financial wizard, and that is Councillor Steve Bartley, who many know as a very strong businessman. He he took a look and ran the numbers and said, you know what, I think that we should actually not do all of this by debt. Some, yes, but not all. Pardon me. And so we took a look at it, and the numbers, we pay a penalty to because there was already an agreement to borrow this money. But at the end of the day, I think we are going to be quite a bit further ahead by doing it as Mr. Bartley, Councillor Bartley, has suggested.
So that's going to be partly capital funded through reserves and then partially debenture?
Yes, that's essentially it.
Mm-hmm. So basically, you're just changing the ratio from higher debenture, lower cash, to more cash, lower debentures. Well,
and we also have a motion coming forward from the deputy mayor on Monday Cummings meeting to change our sort of policy, our financial investment policy, so that we can take more advantage of the rate of return on GICs right at the moment. There was a clause in there that limited the use of that vehicle, but at this point in time, it actually makes sense to put more money into those, and why not?
Sure, by all means, by all means. Now, one of the stories we talked about in previous conversations was the tree inventory, and that's been completed. So you now know how many trees you got.
Yeah, don't ask me though. I should know more about it. All I know is that we did do an inventory of all the trees in the urban area and on, I think, the main thoroughfares. And what that will enable us to do is, and it's already started. I sign every check and I read every invoice, and we have spent a lot in the last few months on removing trees that needed to be removed. But I'm quite satisfied. This is a very positive thing because everybody, I think, is coming to the realization that the canopy over a municipality plays a very important role in resilience and in combating climate change. So every good reason to do that, and I'm really happy that we have somebody who championed that. It was actually one of our staff members who championed that, and I was very pleased to see that an idea that came from staff actually took precedence over some of the ideas that came from councillors in deciding what our priorities would be for the 4 years.
Well, what's the old saying? You don't know what you've got till it's gone, and you got to know your
paradise. Put up a parking lot.
Paradise and put up a parking lot. So. Yeah, well, it's really interesting to. I notice other communities have done the same, and it's always good to know what you've got, because when it's gone, it's gone. I see also that Blue Dolphin Pool is going to be back this year with a new agreement with the Unsound Family Y.
Yeah. Very, very excited that we're able to do that. I think that's it. It was what we needed during we were between a rock and a hard spot, and the Y came up with a solution, and that it worked very well. And I think it makes sense. For this problem isn't going away. That is finding qualified people to run a swimming pool, qualified lifeguards and so forth. And so I think it's a good fit, and that is an example of the kind of way we need to work with other municipalities, neighboring municipalities in particular, but also, with other groups and organizations to bring costs down for ratepayers, or to provide services that we otherwise couldn't sustain.
Yes, because the Y is the training center for lifeguards in the area.
It is.
I'm not mistaken. I know a couple of my kids were trained as lifeguards at the Y, and so this kind of moves them from the training experience right into a good paying job. for the summer for a student perhaps, and some who go on to do it professionally.
Yeah.
So does that means the pool will be open this summer and
Yes.
speed ahead?
Yeah. The pool is nearing the end of its life cycle. So is our arena. I believe that council will keep these facilities open and in top shape for as long as we possibly can. But I think too that the day is coming when we need to be looking at how things are done in the future. I think most people would agree that the model of combining these facilities in one spot is a good one. I think they'd also agree that combining them with the neighboring municipality is a good idea too. You know what I mean? So how this will all play out, I don't know. But I do think that it's very much on our radar and something that we know that is important for a community like Meaford. If you want to have families growing up in Meaford, you have to have arenas and swimming pools and lots of other things too. The great school we have, as you know, we just opened this terrific new facility with kindergarten to grade 12, I guess it is. I think that everything I can see, it's working well. However, I think we're up to about 4 portables now, and I would easily predict that there'll be another 4 before long.
That's one of the questions I will be asking Lori Wilder when they're on Politically Speaking, I think in February. So
I'll watch for that because it will be very interesting.
But the board is always very political, just as much as our municipal politicians are. And so, yes, but I do know that this is an issue, not just here, but down in Dundalk and other places across Grey Bruce. And it's not just the public school board, but the Roman Catholic School Board has similar issues as well. So, yeah, it's not what we were saying 10, 15 years ago at all. Well, Ross, you've got some interests. You've got stuff you wanted to talk about.
Did you? Have you heard about the Georgian Bay Aspiring Geopark?
Nope.
Well, let me be the first to tell you then. I met with a very interesting gentleman here a few weeks ago. Deputy Mayor and the interim CAO met too. And we learned that there is a plan afoot for a UNESCO Global Geopark for Georgian Bay. And this would be in addition to the UNESCO area that we already have. It would be in addition to the Niagara Biosphere. And so you might say, well, what do we need something more for? And here's the interesting thing that I had not thought of, and I did study geology, and so I do know that the ground we walk on, if you go down to the base, it was laid down 2.5 billion years ago. You know that, and because that's where you find the triballites and all the sea creatures that swam and inhabited a tropical sea. Now we haven't moved, but the bed that the sea laid down has moved, and it's under us now. The interesting thing about geology: did you know that the entire city of Toronto sits on what is known as the Meaford Formation?
Didn't know that, but I knew the ground under Toronto is awfully shaky, but
but anyway, to come back to this, so their priorities are education, research, Indigenous partnerships, conservation-based tourism, and geosites. They've got 167 sites of geological and geocultural significance identified, and I couldn't begin to tell you all about it here, but I'm just going to mention a few things. They've talked about the most comprehensive, multi-layered mapping picture in Georgian Bay's existence. The work is ongoing, including the integration of Indigenous traditional territory maps, and will play an essential role in research and providing opportunities with in-depth understanding of local environments. So anyway, this geopark would encompass 48,000 square kilometers, including the near watersheds. And just trying to think some of the things that are quite outstanding about this. The team is being led by James Dobbin of Dobbin International. They're working with Parks Canada, Ontario Parks, Ministry of Fisheries and Oceans, MNO, and NASA to integrate additional data sets, including the waters of Georgian Bay. And just to mention one other thing here, this surprised me, and may you, there are 40 First Nations and 5 Métis councils lying within the boundaries of this aspiring geopark. That's a large number. And they believe that there's I guess what I'm saying is that they think there should be a change in the way tourism is done, and that they need municipalities and governments at both levels to start working to, first of all, generate global tourism around Georgian Bay, but also to do it in a way that inspires people about what we have here, and works with the Indigenous people to preserve it and portray it. That's a microcosm of what is here. I don't know if you can see this picture here, but I'll show you that. That's Georgian Bay, and you can see they've got 9 regions that they've carved out around the bay, and Meaford would be in right in the middle between 5 and 6. 5 is the limestone coast, and 6 is Ice Age and early people. Anyway, that's an exciting thing, and I feel that it would be good for Meaford to be part of that. I think it'll be a very interesting thing if it comes along, and it looks like there's a tremendous amount of qualified, they've got NASA involved as well, qualified work going on to bring it about.
You know, we think that we know everything about the Niagara Escarpment, but in truth, we know just a little bit. And we think we know everything about, for example, the oil shales at Craigleith, but we don't. We don't know everything.
No, I'm
so this
sure.
sounds like a very exciting idea. And have they talked about? Excuse me. Have they talked about a timeline for that?
Yeah, I think that there's work going on. Like they've got a plan for 2024 and a plan for 2025. And they've got different milestones mapped out. And so I think that the fact that I just had a visit from the organizers, I understand there are actually some trails that have been laid out in Killarney and in the Midland and Penetang-Machine area, but obviously they'll get to our area, and it is a very, very comprehensive thing and huge in scope. And they're definitely talking about the impact that would have on global tourism. We get lots of tourists from around the world, but we don't do a very good job of explaining the critical place of Georgian Bay. One thing we know is that it is a great, great resource, unique, and deserves our best efforts to preserve it and maintain it.
I recall about 20 years ago standing on up in Bruce National Park, standing at on one of the cliffs there and just being absolutely awestruck by the cliff formations and the beauty of the place. And when you realize it, that's only half of it. Most of it's underwater, and the changes that have occurred, and it's quite remarkable. So certainly looking forward to that this idea, and Perhaps it'll be part of our further conversation. So what else have you got, Ross?
That's pretty much it. I'm very excited about the year coming up. It's going to be busy, but you're going to see a lot of houses go up in Meaford in the coming year. I am a little bit dismayed at what I'm hearing and what I see on Facebook in connection with SkyDev. The complaint I'm hearing is that they've been excavating for 2 months and we don't know what the plan is. Well, they haven't been excavating for 2 months. For 2 months, they have been remediating soil, taking soil out and that is contaminated and it cannot be, part of the build. So people just they don't know what they don't know, and I wish we could do a better job of explaining what is really happening there.
That's a good point, Ross. We all like to think we're wearing the white hat, which is the supervisor's hat. But reality is we don't know what we don't know. At the same time, perhaps our builders owe the public a little bit more communication.
I think communication or the lack of communication is the root of all evil, and I think that's what we're looking at here. I do know that the plan for SkyDev has changed. It's changed quite dramatically, and in a way I think that will be pleasing to the ratepayers who had so many concerns about it. But I really don't have anything to show them yet. I have seen some plans, and I know they've revised them significantly. But again, this is a bit of a red herring to say they've been under construction for 2 months, because they certainly haven't been. They've been taking away soil that needs to be remediated, and is not something you can build with. By the way, I will also report quickly that I see the soil remediation at the site of the Johnny B's fire is going ahead, and that tells me that his reconstruction plans are also moving forward, and that's good.
We're having there's a big project here in Owen Sound downtown on 3rd Ave East called Claire's Place, or St. Clair's Place, right behind St. Francis Street. And that's exactly what has been going on, remediation. And people didn't realize it. Like, there was the hoardings, and there was dump trucks, and there was shovels, and there was a lot of dirt being moved. And it wasn't until it was done and backfilled and refenced that they said, oh, yeah, we're in remediate. We had to remediate the soil to start fresh, and that'll be in the spring. Okay, fair enough. And I think we forget that there's an awful lot of industrial brownfields, as they're called.
Exactly. And this was the Knights Hardwood manufacturing plant, and I think some of the land also was serviced by the railway in the early days, and the contamination is. And I know for a fact, I was told by a company representative that their investment was over $4 million in just preparing the site to be able to do anything.
Yeah. And on that note, Ross, we're out of time. So thank you very much for being a part of Politically Speaking, and as always, a pleasure. And I know the next time there'll be lots more to talk about.
There will be, and thank you very much too, David.
And thank you, friends. I'm David Shearman. This is Politically Speaking, and yes, we'll talk again.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
Today, I helped a parent feed their family by connecting them to a food program.
Today, I helped someone connect with mental health supports.
Today, I helped a couple struggling to pay their